Have you noticed the anomalies? The lights flickering in your hallway for no reason? The cell service dropping out in the middle of the city where the signal is usually perfect? The banking apps that go down foreign scheduled maintenance in the middle of the Tuesday workday? Most people brush these things off. They call them glitches. They call them technical difficulties. But there are people in the intelligence community, silent professionals who have spent their lives guarding the infrastructure of this nation, who are calling them something else entirely. They are calling them pings. They are calling them tests. And tonight we have to ask the question that the mainstream media is too terrified to ask. Is the United States of America being softened up for a total catastrophic failure of the electrical grid? And if the lights go out tomorrow morning, do the people in charge have a plan to turn them back on, or is the darkness part of the plan? We are not here to spread panic for the sake of panic. We are here to analyze the data points that are appearing on the radar, data points that, when connected, paint a picture of imminent systemic collapse. The first and most glaring sign is the behavior of the continuity of government leadership. It was quietly reported, buried in the back pages of technical defense journals, that key members of the United States Senate and top-level executive officials have been issued satellite phones within the last week. Now, ask yourself why. We live in the age of 5 grams. We have fiber optics and high-speed internet. Satellite phones are clunky, expensive, and difficult to use. You only hand out satellite phones when you expect the terrestrial network, the cell towers, and the landlines to be dead. This is not a standard upgrade. This is a preparation for a black sky event. They are securing their ability to talk to each other while you are left holding a smartphone that is nothing more than a glass brick. But that is just the tip of the iceberg. To understand the threat, you have to understand how fragile the American power grid actually is. We like to think of our grid as a fortress, but in reality, it is a patchwork quilt of outdated technology, some of it dating back to the 1960s and 70s. It relies on a series of massive components called high-voltage transformers. These are the beating heart of the grid. They take the massive power from the plants and step it down so it can travel to your city. Here is the terrifying statistic that keeps national security experts awake at night. The United States does not manufacture these transformers. We import them. And the lead time to order one is currently 18 to 24 months. If a coordinated cyber attack or a physical sabotage campaign were to destroy just 9 of these key transformers across the country, the entire grid would collapse, and it wouldn't be down for a day. It wouldn't be down for a week. We would be looking at a blackout lasting 12 to 18 months. Imagine that for a second, a year without power, a year without refrigeration, a year without pumped water. The Congress knows this, the White House knows this, and yet the grid remains unprotected. Why? Is it incompetence, or is it negligence? Or is it something darker? We know that foreign adversaries like Russia and China have penetrated our SCADA systems, the software that controls these transformers. The FBI Director Christopher Wray publicly warned that Chinese malware, known as Volt-Typhoon, is pre-positioned inside our critical infrastructure. He said they are waiting for the right moment to deal a devastating blow with the geopolitical tensions we are seeing right now, the proxy wars, the trade wars, the threats of nuclear escalation. Is it possible that the right moment is this week? Let's walk through the timeline of a total grid failure based on the government's own simulation models. They call it the cascade effect. Hour 0. The attack happens. Maybe it is a hack. Maybe it is an EMP. Maybe it is a physical attack on substations. The lights go out. Most people don't panic yet. They think it is a storm. They check their phones, but the towers are overloaded or dead. Hour 4. The traffic lights are out. Gridlock paralyzes every major city. People are stuck in elevators. Subways screech to a halt in pitch-black tunnels. The confusion starts to turn into frustration. Hour 12. The sun goes down. This is the first night of darkness. The psychological impact hits. You realize the streetlights aren't coming on. You hear the sirens, but they sound different tonight. They are constant. The police are overwhelmed. Hour 24. The grocery store shelves are stripped bare. The credit card machines don't work, and cash is the only king. If you don't have cash, you don't eat. The just-in-time delivery trucks have stopped moving because the gas pumps run on electricity. No power, no gas, no food. Hour 72, this is the breaking point. By day 3, the water pressure fails. Most people don't realize that city water requires massive electric pumps to get to your tap, especially if you live in a high rise. When the taps run dry, hygiene collapses, desperation sets in. This is when the looting shifts from stealing TVs to stealing water and baby formula. This is when society fractures. But there is a secondary threat that almost no one talks about, the nuclear threat. The United States has 93 operating commercial nuclear reactors. When the grid goes down, these plants automatically shut down, but the nuclear fuel inside them stays hot. It needs to be constantly cooled by water pumps. Those pumps run on. Grid power. When the grid fails, they switch to backup diesel generators. These generators have enough fuel for maybe 3 to 7 days. After that, unless refueled, which is impossible if the roads are blocked and the trucks aren't running, the generators die. The pumps stop, the water boils off, and the fuel melts down. We are not talking about one Chernobyl. We are talking about potentially dozens of Fukushimas happening simultaneously across the country. This is the invisible clock that starts ticking the moment the lights go out. We also need to analyze the financial implications of a cyber blackout. There are theorists who believe that a grid-down scenario is the perfect cover for a financial reset. Think about it. The banks are technically insolvent, as we discussed in our previous reports. The debt is unpayable. How do you erase the debt without causing a revolution? You blame the hackers. You say, oh, the cyber attack corrupted the databases. We lost the records of who owns what. When the lights come back on, they introduce the new system. The central bank digital currency. They tell you, we are sorry your savings were lost in the attack, but here is a government grant in the new Fed coin to get. You started. It is the ultimate problem reaction solution. They create the chaos to justify the control. Look at the preparations of the ultra-wealthy. Mark Zuckerberg is building a $100 million compound in Kauai with a massive underground bunker, its own food production, and independent energy sources. He is not alone. The CEOs of major tech companies, the people who built the systems we rely on, are buying land in New Zealand. In rural Montana, in places far away from the cities, they are cashing out their stocks at record highs. Why are they selling? Why are they building fortresses? They know that the digital world is fragile. They know that when the switch is flipped, the cities will become death traps. Let's talk about the cities versus the rural areas. If the grid goes down, a city like New York or Chicago becomes a cage. Without elevators, how do you get supplies up to the 30th floor? Without sewage treatment plants, which run on electricity, the waste backs up into the streets within days. Disease spreads instantly. The population density becomes a curse. In the rural areas, where people have wells, where they have wood stoves, where they know how to grow food, survival is possible. This is why the government is so focused on smart cities. They want you in the city, dependent on the grid, dependent on the system. They don't want you out in the country where you can survive the blackout. We also have to consider the dark winter narrative. The World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab have been warning about a cyber pandemic for years. They ran a simulation called Cyber Polygon. In this simulation, they modeled exactly what we are discussing, a systemic attack on the supply chain and the internet. In every simulation they run, the result is the same, the need for greater global centralization of power. They predict it, and then it happens. It happened with the health crisis. Is the cyber crisis next? The timing fits. With the global economy teetering, a blackout provides the perfect excuse to declare martial law and suspend civil liberties without anyone being able to organize a protest. How do you organize a protest if you can't post on Facebook? How do you gather if you can't text your friends? Darkness is the ultimate crowd control. There is another angle. The sun. We are currently in solar cycle 25, which scientists predict will be one of the most active in history. A coronal mass ejection, or CME, is a burst of plasma from the sun that hits the Earth. In 1859, the Carrington event hit Earth. Back then, we only had telegraph wires. The storm was so strong that telegraph machines caught fire and operators were shocked. If a Carrington-level event hit today, it would fry every microchip, every transformer, and every satellite in orbit. We would be thrown back to the Stone Age instantly, and unlike a cyber attack, you can't just patch the code. The hardware is physically destroyed. The government knows this is a statistical certainty, yet they have refused to spend the money to harden the grid. Why? Because it is cheaper to let it fail and pick up the pieces than it is to protect it. Or because the failure serves a purpose. So, what happens to the medical system? This is the most heartbreaking part of the analysis. Hospitals run on generators, yes, but only for critical systems, and only for a few days. Think about the people on ventilators. Think about the diabetics who need insulin refrigerated. Think about the dialysis patients. In a long-term blackout, the mortality rate skyrockets within. The first week, the pharmacies will be looted immediately. If you depend on a daily medication to survive, and you do not have a 3-month supply on hand right now, you are in the danger zone. The supply chain for pharmaceuticals is incredibly complex and fragile. It breaks first. The military's role in this is also defined. The plans for defense support of civil authorities outline exactly what the army does when the grid fails. They do not come to distribute food to everyone. They come to secure key critical infrastructure. They will secure the remaining power plants. They will secure the government bunkers. They will secure the food warehouses for their own use. You are not on the priority list. In a catastrophic collapse, the military's job is to ensure the continuity of the government, not the comfort of the citizenry. You need to understand this. You are your own first responder. Let's look at the kill switch legislation. There is a little-known executive provision that allows the president to take control of all US communications in the event of a national emergency. It's called SOP 303. It was used to shut down cell service in the Bay Area rapid transit system during protests years ago. It has been tested. If they feel that misinformation is causing panic during a blackout, they can legally sever the connection to the outside world. They can create a customized intranet where the only news you get is what they approve. They can isolate states. They can isolate cities. The darkness won't just be physical. It will be informational. What about the Internet of Things? Your smart fridge, your smart thermostat, your Ring doorbell. All of these devices are potential entry points for hackers. They are also useless bricks without power. We have invited these surveillance devices into our homes, and in a grid-down scenario, they become liabilities. If you have electronic locks on your doors, do you have a physical key? If you have a Tesla, how do you charge it? The push for electric vehicles makes the population 100% dependent on the grid. If the gas pumps don't work, you can siphon gas from one car to another. You cannot siphon electricity. The push to ban gas stoves and gas cars is a push to centralize control. If everything is electric, they can turn off everything with one switch. So the question remains, is it starting? We are seeing the soft signals, the glitching FAA systems that ground flights, the 911 outages in major states, the cellular blackouts. These are the tremors before the earthquake. The experts say we are overdue. The hackers are ready. The sun is active, and the government is buying satellite phones. The only variable left is you. Are you prepared for the silence? When the TV turns off and doesn't come back on, do you have a plan? Do you have a Faraday cage to protect your emergency radio? A Faraday cage is simply a metal box lined with cardboard that protects electronics from an EMP or solar flare. A galvanized trash can works. An ammunition can works. Put a radio inside. Put a walkie-talkie inside. Because if the grid goes down, information will be more valuable than gold. You need to know if it is a local outage or a national attack. You need to know if help is coming or if you are on your own. Cash is critical. We cannot stress this enough. In a digital world, we forget the power of paper money. When the card readers are dark, the person with a stack of $20 bills can buy the last bag of rice. The person with the Platinum Amex card can buy nothing. Keep small bills. Keep silver coins if you have them. Barter will become the new economy. Alcohol, cigarettes, coffee, batteries. These are the trade goods of the blackout. And finally, the psychological preparation. Humans are not used to true darkness. We are not used to true silence. The panic that sets in when the realization hits that it is not coming back on is dangerous. Neighbors will turn on neighbors. The veneer of politeness will vanish when the air conditioning stops and the hunger starts. You need to be the calm in the chaos. You need to be the leader for your family. This video is not a prediction of doom. It is a forecast of probability. The probabilities are spiking. The red lights are blinking on the dashboard of our civilization. We can ignore them and hope for the best, or we can recognize the threat and prepare. The government has made their choice. They have their bunkers and their satellite phones. Now you must make yours. We will continue 2 broadcast updates on the stability of the grid for as long as we have power. If we go dark, remember what we told you. Trust your preparation, trust your instincts, and do not wait for permission to save yourself. This is global fallout. We are watching the lights, and we are hoping they stay on.